What's up, guys? Welcome back to Nothing But Reds. We got another Sunday summary this week, and we have a new guest on the show. He has his own podcast. Name of the podcast is Yanks of the Cop, and today we're going to get into a lot of stuff. Transfer rumors, team news, everything. As always, if you're returning, thank you guys for coming back. I appreciate it. Like the video, share the video. All your Liverpool fans, tell them about it. All right. If you're new, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Okay, it really helps me out. Without further ado, let's get into it. All right, guys, here we go. Another Sunday summary. All right, I got Steven Scanlon with me today. Steven is co-host of a few podcasts. His main podcast is Yanks of the Cop. And I got Steven with me today. Steven, why don't you tell the people a little bit about your podcast?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me on, Kyle. I know we've been talking about doing this for a while, so really excited to be on and can't wait for you to come on Yanks of the Cop with me. But yeah, so Yanks of the Cop is, just another Liverpool supporters podcast run by me and my brother out of Boston. And it's very similar to this. We like to summarize every game, look forward to the next games coming up, and then just tackle all the latest news and transfer rumors going on with the team. Overall, what our goal is to have a place similar to this where, a lot of different people from, all over the world can come on and kind of share their opinions. Like, we're not all pundits here. I really like getting the opinion of the little guy, hearing what everyone wants to say. So it's really, really fun there. And then also have another podcast called The Weekly Review, Footy Weekly. So that's with me and four of my best friends, including my brother, that we all played college soccer together. And that's like a weekly Premier League rundown. So we cover all the games that played. We review all the games, key moments, and then just overall league news. So really excited to get those going again, and excited for you to come on both of them.
Yeah, man, and I'm happy to have you. I appreciate you coming on. And with everything going on, it's just been tough to get everything organized, but I think this is really good that we're collaborating now. So,
yeah, absolutely. I think everyone's just kind of craving, some more something. Everyone's looking for something to talk about. Right. And I think if we can bring, an hour of joy to people every day, that'd be awesome.
Absolutely, man. I mean, I've just been watching highlights, reruns, everything, just trying to get the fix,
Yeah, me too, man. I keep watching the Barcelona replay.
Oh, my God. Every week, at least once, probably.
Yep. Yeah. Every time.
All right, man. So we'll get into it. So as we were discussing a little bit before, Liverpool have put some of their staff on furlough. A lot of teams around the world are doing it, but really it's from a business standpoint, it makes sense. I just kind of wanted to get your viewpoint on it. Like, what do you think about it? From what I've seen from the fans, they're not really fans of it. So What do you think about it?
Yeah, it's a tough situation, obviously, with everything going on. And, the last thing you want to do is try to, put your employees in danger in any way. And I know that there's a lot of legal stuff going on in England, addressing these and a number of different things. But, this morning, actually, Man City came out and said they're not putting their employees on furlough. And,
yeah, I saw that.
So that was a really good thing for them. But I am a little bit disappointed, not going to lie, being out of Boston and knowing that, Liverpool is owned by Fenway Sports Group, who also owns the Red Sox. They donated about $1 million to Boston and the local relief here. So then to see that, and then now over in England, they're just kind of, putting their own employees on furlough, definitely was disappointing for me to see. And I understand completely where the fans are coming from, because especially when you learn what they did for Boston and now they're not doing it for England, it definitely rubs me the wrong way.
Absolutely. And that's a good point. I didn't even know they did that. Mm-hmm. And you got to think, are they kind of putting Liverpool on the back burner, especially because it is Fenway Sports Group? They kind of expanded into Liverpool, so they're putting, the Boston community on priority, which, yeah, it's a sticky situation with that. I can completely understand where the fans are coming from also, especially because I think the players should be the first people to take cuts. I mean, even if you look at Barcelona, I think their players took a 70% pay cut. Yep. And even though they did put up a fight, I think that's better than what Liverpool did. I think in the long run, especially if this goes away, it wouldn't be too big of a deal. But if it does end up being prolonged for, 6, 12, 18 months, something like that, it could be a problem.
Yeah, definitely. And it's already, from everything I see too, jobs are hard to come by in Liverpool as it kind of seems right now. So having this happen is definitely discouraging. But one thing that I did like to see was I did notice that Jordan Henderson's been contacting the captains for the other teams, trying to put together some sort of relief fund. And I think that really goes to show the character of our captain, and why he is our captain, because that's a really cool thing to do. And hopefully those funds can maybe go to some of those, employees on furlough or something like that. Hopefully that'll be some sort of solution.
Yeah, when I saw that, I love that. That's perfect. That's exactly the kind of person Jordan Henderson is.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So with that, the league, we were talking about it. It's probably, I can't see it coming back. There's been talks of them resuming it in isolation in like mid-July or something and playing like I don't know, like back-to-back games and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I just don't see it happening. I think they're trying to remain optimistic, of course.
Yeah.
As with here in the States, the NBA keeps, there's talks of like them playing it on cruise ships and stuff like that. It's just not going to happen. I really don't think it's going to happen unless something drastic happens with the virus and it just goes away. I don't see it resuming. But I don't know the plan. I don't know what they're going to do if it doesn't resume. Are they just going to pick it up next season? Are they going to push the start of next season back and just resume this season whenever they can? But then that brings up problems with the scheduling for forever, really.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think they're going to do?
I think that's the problem, is that there is no solution that's going to satisfy everybody. So they're really just keeping their fingers crossed, hoping that this clears up sooner than later. But all signs point to that not happening. And, unfortunately, from a Liverpool fan perspective, everyone's health and safety has to come first, even though we are so clear. And it's games like the game against, Watford and stuff like that you left kind of kicking yourself now. It's like, man, if we just won that game and, we won the game against Man U, we'd be all set. We won't even have to worry about it. But
I know.
Honestly, it's one of those things where, we did just notice the Belgian league to say, hey, straight up, we're done. We're going to say Club Brugge is the champion. And I think that they aren't having anyone get relegated. So it's just going to be the same teams is what I think is what I read properly. So that could be good news for us. Maybe they go some sort of route that way. Just, hey, when season's done, this is what the standings are. No one's getting relegated. But then, again, you're looking at teams, like Leeds and those teams in the championship who are trying to come up, battling for one of those top three spots. They're all, SOL. So I don't know what the proper thing is going to be, because in any situation is going to be losers in every single situation.
Exactly. You hit the nail on the head by saying you can't satisfy everyone, but you got to make the best decision, financially for the league, but also for the health of everybody. It's uncharted territory. We've never been here before. Like, the world has never been here before, I feel like. So,
right. And it's also, and then also when you look at it from a health standpoint, not even just for coronavirus, but let's say it does clear up, like they already play so many games as it is with all the international breaks and multiple games a week. Now you're going to try and do one game every 3 days and try and squeeze it in before the start of next season. Again, it's not a perfect system, and it's going to be really interesting to see what they come up with, because someone's going to be pissed and they're going to have every right to be.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And, let's transition into, the transfer rumors, because with Liverpool on the furlough, or putting their employees on furlough, they've kind of halted their negotiations with transfers, which makes sense. But there is some news that's still coming out, of course.
Right.
So within the last couple of weeks, this is just ridiculous. We've seen links with Coutinho, and then the one that caught me off guard was Sterling. And first off, we're linked. Coutinho's linked with us every other day, because ever since he left, he's just been trash.
Yep.
And I think that's his fault. I have no sympathy for him. But then Sterling kind of did the same thing. Sterling left in a worse way than I think Coutinho did.
Agreed.
But the only thing that makes sense is, if the UEFA upholds their ban from the Champions League, Sterling would probably leave. People are talking maybe all the top players could leave. I don't see it. But, what do you think about, obviously, in my opinion, neither of them are coming back. Do you think it's just clickbait? Do you think there's any credibility behind it whatsoever?
I don't at all. First of all, the Sterling thing just doesn't make any sense. Just with where he's at in his career, he needs to be playing every single game. And maybe I'm a Liverpool supporter too much, but he's not going to walk into our starting 11. I'd much rather have Mane or Salah out in the wing. And he's not one of those guys that you could even adjust a formation for, go to a 4-2-3-1. He doesn't even fit in that sort of a scheme either. So
right.
I don't think there's any merit to that. I think that's all clickbait. Then on the Coutinho side, I don't want him back, and I don't think he will come back. Like I think Klopp, when he told him, he's like, hey, like when you're gone, you're just going to be another player.
Right.
And I think now we're seeing that 100%. And even when he was on Liverpool, we were talking before we started recording, like, he was great for us. He was a little magician. We loved him, but he did have one glaring flaw, in my opinion, and that was he did not track back on defense. And Klopp loves that in that number 10 role. He likes having a guy that can track back on defense. I mean, we always say Firmino is a false nine, but he really is more of the false 9-10 role because he's always backed by like Fabinho and Van Dijk a lot of the times, and
Right.
so he just doesn't have to work great defensively to fit in that role. But the one thing I will say is that it's really interesting to see that Barcelona is going to take so much of a pay cut just to get him out. I mean, it looks like they're saying like 60 to 80 million that they would take to get him off the team. So
Yeah.
he could be a good fit for a team, maybe like Chelsea, but I don't see a reunion with Liverpool anytime soon.
Yeah, me neither. There's no chance. And you're right. They took a huge pay cut. They went so out of pocket to sign him. They thought he was the next big thing. I think it's excellent business by Liverpool on the one hand, but I also think it was desperation by Barcelona, right?
Yeah.
What was
Yeah,
it,
honestly,
142 million or something? Ridiculous.
yeah, it was 142. It honestly reminded me a little bit, like now that it's crashing and burning too. It reminded me of when Liverpool got Mario Balotelli. Yeah, because
Oh
you could
my
just tell
gosh.
it was just like such a panic buy, and like you could tell Barcelona was like, we need a big splash. Who is it going to be? Okay, it's Coutinho, and it just did not work out for them.
Yeah, yeah. And just going back to the main point, neither of them are coming back. It doesn't make sense for either of them. I think Chelsea, like you said, could be a good fit for Coutinho. They got some older players on their way out, maybe Willian, but Willian's more of a winger. I don't know. It's kind of up in the air for both of them. But
Yeah.
the other one that I don't think really has any legs too much is Sancho over there at Dortmund. I think he's really young. I think he's 19, maybe 18 still. He is more of a flashy player. I don't think his attitude is one that really attracts Klopp's attention. Now, that's just my opinion. He's very talented. Don't get me wrong. He's doing great over there in the German league. But I think he's more suited for a Man United or a Chelsea, maybe an Arsenal, something like that. I don't even think he fits in at Arsenal. I think Man United is ultimately where he'll end up.
I completely agree, and I think you were spot on with just like more so his style just doesn't really fit. He is overly flashy, and there has been some like murmurs out of Germany that he's had some headbutting with the coaching staff and with like the organization there. So it sounds like he might just be a little bit of I'm not saying he is a head case, but it sounds like he might have some a little bit of an ego to him, which is fine. You definitely have to play with a little bit of that, but I don't think, again, especially for the price tag too, we don't like to spend over 100 million on a player, and that's definitely what it's going to cost to bring somebody like that in. But you kind of said it. I think he's more of the mold for a Man U, especially. But he also has a really good relationship with Cho over at Chelsea. So I wouldn't be surprised if he wants to go play with one of his good friends. But all in all, I think the biggest thing is just the price tag. But it also is similar to the Sterling situation. He's going to want to go into a situation where he can play every day, and he's not going to want to sit behind Salah and Mane. So I just don't think he's a fit there.
Absolutely. I think the only thing that could attract him potentially is the pay. If you look at, I don't know if this was necessarily the situation for Pulisic, but people would argue he was a star at Dortmund. I just think he was an excellent role player at Dortmund. Mm-hmm. And then when you come to Chelsea, he wasn't the guy. He wasn't the hot topic, and he kind of had to earn his way into Lampard's starting lineup, and then he kind of fell off. Who knows if that's going to happen? But I'm sure the pay is more, right? It's more of a market.
Yep.
So that's going to attract him. But who knows what's going to happen with Sancho? I think the biggest thing is the credible transfer rumors, and we're going to get into those next. So, for example, Timo Werner. Recently, I've seen Milo Rashica. I think that's how you say his first name. Yep. And then Ferran Torres. So we'll start with Timo Werner. So in 2019, these are great stats. 25 matches for Leipzig. I think Leipzig, I'm saying the right one because I know there's two. 25 matches, 21 goals, 7 assists. He just turned 24, and his current market value is about 72 million. Now, I know he's German, right? So I'm sure Klopp has a relationship with the kid. I think 24, beautiful, perfect age. I mean, he's got enough experience. He's mature enough. I think when we were going after him when he was like 21, 22, maybe not so much. but 24, I think we got Firmino when he was 24, 25,
Yep.
and he fit right in. So I think he'd be a good mentee for Klopp's system if we were to bring him in. And like I said, the stats are phenomenal. 21 goals, 7 assists for a forward. He can play on the wing. I mean, great. What do you think?
Perfect. Honestly, when I look at Timo Werner, I think he is our number one target this summer, and I think he should be. In my opinion, other than Van Dijk and Alisson, he's really one of the best guys that we've recruited since Salah, in my opinion. I mean, talk about a guy that can do it all. He can beat you with pace. He can beat you with strength. He's good in the air. He's creative. He's a great finisher. He literally does it all for RB Leipzig up top. And one thing I do like about him, and I think that Klopp likes about him, is you touched on it, his flexibility. He can play in numerous different positions. And I think especially with the signing of Minamino in January, and now you see us being linked to Timo Werner, I think he's kind of looking for more ways to be flexible with this lineup. I wouldn't be surprised if we do bring in Werner, if we move to more of a 4-2-3-1 setup, because now we can still play a 4-3-3 and have Werner come off the bench. Mm-hmm. Or you can move to a 4-2-3-1, put him up top, and then have Firmino be in the 10. And that kind of solves that creative, center attacking mid creativity piece that we're missing. Right. And we know that Klopp values that position a lot, and he really wants somebody who works hard defensively. Well, that's Firmino, so that'd be perfect. So he'd be great relief for anyone in the front three. But I do think if he came in, he'd end up starting in a 4-2-3-1 setup.
Yeah, and we've seen Klopp do it before. When Solanke was here, he liked playing that role because Solanke is just an out-and-out striker. You know what I mean? So he wants to play that role. But it's great that Klopp's so versatile where he can do a 4-3-3 and get results, but then the 4-2-3-1, we've seen he's trying to get into that. So, with Shaqiri on his way out and Minamino just coming in, we have a lot of versatility. We have a lot of players that we can use in different positions. And a lot of those players, the Minaminos, the Chamberlains, they can play on a wing, but they're more of an attacking midfield role. And like you said with Firmino likes to drop deep in the middle of the field. So we have so much flexibility, and it's awesome. I think Timo Werner would be an excellent signing.
Yeah, and that's the thing with Timo too is you read off his stats, unbelievable stats, some of the best stats in Europe.
Incredible.
And we're talking him. He has like a 50 million release clause or something like that. Like that is it checks all the boxes for what Liverpool likes to do. Really good talent, can still develop more, and for a great price. That is Liverpool's transfer model right there, and he fits the bill 100%.
Absolutely. And we have good relationships with Leipzig too, with Keita.
Absolutely right. So and even being tipped off by Minamino's 7 million release clause, like we were tipped off because of our relationship there. So 100%, it just makes perfect sense now for it not to happen. And I'm usually one of those guys where it's like, I don't try to listen to the rumors too much unless it comes from, James Pierce, Paul Joyce, Melissa Ruddy, one of those people.
The legends, yeah.
But this is just like, it just makes too much sense for this not to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's been linked with us for so long, and it just seems like Klopp's perfect player. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Because Firmino doesn't have a backup. He doesn't have a player that can play like Firmino. And I think Werner is the exact player he needs.
That's a very interesting point because I think that's another thing that we're missing because, I love Divock. But it drives me crazy when I see him get played out in the wing because I just see Divock as a true out-and-out striker. I think that's his role. Yeah, he can fill in on the wings sometimes, but he can kind of get caught out of position and, be vulnerable out there. So I would much rather, bring in Werner so you have him to play on the wings or even Minamino and then just let Divock be the backup striker up top. But I also think that could result in him leaving maybe. Do you think having Timo come in could maybe push Origi out the door?
Yeah, I mean, I could see it. I think the thing with Origi is he's talented enough to start. I mean, we've seen it, and I think the perfect example, if you look at the Everton game this past season, quality. I mean, pure clinical finisher, no doubt about it. But Klopp plays him on the wing because he respects him and wants to give him playing time, but he just can't fill in that mid or that, false nine role. So I think with bringing him in and say we get another winger, Yeah, I mean, but we did sign him to an extension, so it protected his value. I think that Liverpool have prepared for the chance that he could want to leave. You know
Right.
what I
And
mean? So they,
I
yeah,
think he's earned the right to kind of choose what he wants to do. If he's still willing to have a bench role with us, like by all means, I would love to keep him here. Like he build a guy a statue. But
yeah.
but if he does want to leave for more playing time, I'm totally cool with him having that opportunity because he definitely has earned that.
Completely agree with you. Completely agree with you. I'd be sad to see him go because I love Origi as well.
Yeah.
Going into the wing. Now, these are recently the players I've been seeing linked with Liverpool. We got Milo Rashica out of Werder Bremen in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
Some of his stats: 20 games, 7 goals, 4 assists. Now he's 23 years old. So with those stats compared to Werner, obviously Werner's more of a striker and a finisher, so he's not going to have the goal tally. Still 7 goals, 4 assists, and I believe he started in 80% of the games he played. So you got to remember, if 20 games, he was coming off the bench in 4 of them. So who knows? That could have been the 88th minute. Who knows?
Right.
But
Mm-hmm.
his value currently is at 31.5 million. I've watched some of the highlights. Small, quick, can use both feet. Great distributor, creates a lot of chances, and he can also finish. He's not a great finisher, but he can finish. What do you think? Have you seen any film on the kid?
Yes, I've actually been watching a little bit more of the German league this year. Outside of the Premier League, I think that's probably my second favorite league. I can't stand the Spanish league, so but yeah, so I've seen him play a couple of times. I actually watched a lot of his highlights, and you kind of said a lot of the things that I was going to say. For an attacking midfielder, he's a really good finisher for a midfielder.
Mhm.
He can hit a really good set piece too. He's their set piece taker, and his team, and he plays for Werder Bremen, and his team's kind of been struggling a little bit this year, but he's really been the key cog for them the entire way. You talked about his stats this year. I mean, he has 60 total appearances for the team, and I think he has 23 goals. That's pretty impressive for a midfielder. But the biggest thing I took away from him is that he can beat you a number of different ways. So he is a good finisher. He's pretty good at dribbling. I've seen him blow by people with his pace. Definitely an above average distributor. He can make some really good passes. And then, like I said, really good at hitting a set piece. So it'd be an interesting signing. I think he'd be another one of those guys that he might need a half a season or a full season to adjust to, playing in the Prems, being a little bit of a
Absolutely.
smaller player. So, the 31 million price tag is, kind of interesting. I mean, he's 23, so it kind of fits the bill. But for a $30 million price tag, I personally would rather go after somebody that is kind of Premier League proven, more of like a Todd Cantwell type for that same amount of money.
Okay.
But it is an interesting avenue to go. I think this kid could be good if given the right opportunity with a good team.
Yeah, I think he's very, in my opinion, he reminds me a lot of a Minamino type player. Very raw, very still young,
Yeah.
but still needs some time to adjust, right? Because we
Yes.
saw, what did we see? 3 appearances from Minamino when he was
Yeah.
here,
I think
and
that's it. Yeah.
yeah, you can see some talent in him, but it's a process. Same thing with Keita. You look at Keita. Keita's been here for, I think, 2 seasons now.
Yep.
And it's like, it doesn't seem like that because he plays against Palace and Bournemouth, right? That's when he gets his time to shine. But
Mhm.
same idea, just very raw, still very talented. And I think 31.5, yeah, for someone who plays in the German league, maybe go after someone more proven. I know you
Mhm.
brought up Cantwell from Norwich. I believe he
Mhm.
plays for Norwich.
Yep.
Um, Talented guy. I'm not sure how old he is, but that could be another option. Do you know what his transfer value is?
So that's the thing is that with Cantwell, his tag was around 30 million too, and I thought it was really interesting because we were linked to him, a few weeks back now, and the reports that came back on the Liverpool side was like, love the player, love the talent, don't like the price tag, and I just thought it was interesting because he is a younger guy. He's definitely under 25. I think he's like 23, somewhere around that
Okay.
age, and he's a key player. Him and Buendia from Norwich, they are the two creative guys for that team. And I know they're in last place in the Premier League, but I love the way they play soccer, man, or play football, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
They literally go out and they play their style every single game, no matter who they're playing. And I love that attitude. And you watch Cantwell play, and he has this flair to him. That's I think is one of the things that we're missing on our team. And being able to have the production he's had for Norwich, bottom of the Premier League, like surround him with talent and to see what can happen.
Absolutely. And I've been impressed with Norwich as well. I think everything you said was awesome. The only knock I have on Norwich, they can't defend at all.
Yeah,
I think Krul is a good option in goal for them. I think he's actually a really good buy. I think he played for Newcastle for a while, but
he did.
yeah, defending not great, but going forward, man, they play their style of football just like Sheffield. And look at the success Sheffield's had this season.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just great. It's great. There's a bunch of options out there, and with the pauses and negotiations, who knows exactly what's going on behind closed doors?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. And that's the same with Liverpool too, man. Like you look at the last like 2 or 3 years in our transfer window and like the people we brought in, most of the guys that we brought in were people that we were never talking about. Or they came out and said like price tag's too high, we're not getting this player. Like when we signed Fabinho on like the second day of the transfer window, everyone was like, wait, what? Like,
never even heard of it. Well, I mean, I heard of it, but I was like, who's this guy?
Yeah, exactly. So that's why it's always just like when I see that we're linked with people, I always take it with a grain of salt a little bit because it's like, again, I wouldn't be surprised if they pull something out. It's just like, oh, we never even talked about this person once, but it's a perfect fit.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the next person we're linked with, same idea, same kind of player. He can play in midfield. He's more of a right midfielder, right winger.
Yep.
I'm sure he can play on both wings because he is right-footed. Ferran Torres out of Valencia. Very young. This guy's 20 years old. Stats I got, he had 25 appearances for Valencia so far this season, 4 goals, 4 assists. Now, because of his age, his price or his value's at 50 million.
Right.
So that's a lot of money.
I agree. Too much for him, especially he's another one of those guys who's super, super raw. I mean, I do like him for the fact that he can play on both wings. I've seen him play on both sides, and he can use both feet too, which is awesome. So, I mean, when he's on the right side, he can beat you with pace on the right, but then he also does the Salah cut in on his left. So I've seen him do both of those, and one of the things I took away was that he has incredibly good center of gravity and great balance when he's dribbling.
He's a very technical dribbler. You're right. I noticed
reminds me of almost of like how Hazard dribbles. I'm not comparing their talent, but just how Hazard moves with the ball. He's so low and keeps his hips, like perfect in position every single time. And I just got that same vibe from him, which is a great, great skill to have. But again, I think he's a little too raw. He needs to get a little bit stronger. Some of the guys only like 5'9", 5'10". Mm-hmm. And, towards the end of the season before they postponed it, he was actually being benched by Valencia. So although he's 20, that is a little bit concerning that he wasn't getting the time with them that he probably should have been getting. So I'd be hesitant to pay $50 million for a guy like that when, he probably wouldn't even be playing a big role for us in another 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. And you also got to look at the fact Valencia has a lot of talent. They're very under the radar, but I think I can't think of anyone off the top of my head, but I do know they have a lot of talent on their team. Mm-hmm. So that you got to take that into account. And if he came over to Liverpool, he's probably going to be the same kind of player that Minamino was this season. Probably not going to get a lot of playing time. He's probably going to be a project. You know what I mean? Unless someone left. Shaqiri probably or Origi maybe even. Mm-hmm. So. I think for me, the price is too much for his production, but who knows how he would transition into the Premier League anyway. You know what I mean? So that's where I'm at with that. And then transitioning as far as people who could potentially leave, you got a few names. We brought up Origi. I haven't seen anything about Origi leaving, but you got Shaqiri probably on his way out, and then Lovren maybe.
Yeah, I think unfortunately Shaqiri is going to go, and it's not because he's not talented enough. I think his talent and his style of play, works well for us when we do play a 4-2-3-1, and he doesn't have to track back too much. But when it comes down to it, availability is an ability, and he's just not available. I think mostly it comes down to his body type. I think he's too jacked, and his legs are too muscular. Like his calves are bigger than my face, and it's just like
he's huge, man.
Yeah,
really
so
is.
I just think he keeps getting these little tic-tac injuries, and Klopp likes people he can rely on, and he can't rely on him right now. So even when he is healthy, it's like, you have to get up to game shape, and by the time he's up to game shape, he's hurt again. So
yeah.
As much as I loved him, and like when he first came into the team, he was so good. But I just think he needs to maybe go back to the Italian league or somewhere like that where he can get some games in because he's definitely talented enough.
Absolutely. Yeah, when Shaqiri came in, I'm on record actually as saying I didn't think Shaqiri was going to come because I thought he didn't have the attitude, similar to what I said with Sancho. He didn't have the
Yep.
attitude that Klopp wanted. But
Yeah.
you can't, for 13 million from a relegated Stoke. I mean, you couldn't pass up that opportunity, especially because his first season in, he was productive. I think he had 6 goals and 2 assists or
Yep.
something when he played,
Yep.
and against Barcelona. I mean,
Oh, man.
amazing. So
Yeah.
you can't really hate on Shaqiri too much, but with the ticky-tack injuries, like you said, that halts your development. I mean, look at your rhythm. Look at Chamberlain. That's Chamberlain's main problem is he gets injured and his rhythm is just stopped. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Same thing with
So
Keita. Keita's the same way,
yeah,
man. Like,
same
and
exact thing.
all 3 of these guys are guys that rely on playing back-to-back games, finding that rhythm that you said, because that's how they need to play. And
Yeah.
all 3 of them, because they can't stay healthy, are having the same problem, which is why we're not seeing them fulfill their max potential.
Yep. And then there's Lovren, who does get playing time, doesn't really get injured too often, but when he comes in, he's I got to get your opinion on Lovren because everyone I talk to has a different opinion. So, what do you think about Lovren?
Yes, I mean, I know I played center back. I was a center back growing up, but I think he's a talented player. He definitely has the skill to play. He's wildly inconsistent, and I think he gets in his own way sometimes. He likes to hear the sound of his own voice, and he likes to talk. And it seems like anytime he talks, he puts himself in a bad situation the next game. I mean, he looked at the Watford game. He looked really bad in that game. Troy Deeney was attacking him the entire time. He was losing head balls. It's just not how he plays. And again, he's another guy. He's a great 4th option. He's an unbelievable 4th option center back. But at the end of the day, he's another one of those guys where he almost left for Roma in January and he was convinced to stay. I know Klopp likes him.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he's just going to be gone because he's at the point now in his career is like, I need to be playing before I start declining. So I think he's going to be on his way out. It's just going to be interesting to see who we fill in with him is my thing, because I'm pretty convinced that he's definitely going to be gone.
Yeah, especially it's good. It's crazy you brought up the Roma thing because he was out the door. I'm pretty sure they agreed to a deal, but then Roma went and got is it Smalling from United? Someone on loan, and to fill in for that. But you're right, Klopp loves him, and him and Matip for the whole season before Van Dijk got here did fine. Of course it's not the same as Van Dijk, but together they were okay. I personally like Matip way more. And the cool thing is that we got Matip on a free transfer. So
unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. Yeah, from Schalke, I think. So yeah, he's got to be on the way out now. Who's going to fill in? You got Gomez, you got Matip, you got some like younger, not as talented like Masterson and Vandenberg and some of those guys. But I think they'd probably have to bring someone else in, maybe a young, proven defender from maybe like a German league or something.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't see him bringing in like a top tier center back because I think Matip and Gomez are the 2 and 3 option.
I 100% agree. And the thing that I was thinking, a few months back, I was like, Lovren's going to be gone, and I would love to see them promote Keanu Hoiber. I was like, I think he'd be a great 4th string guy. He's young, and he can just get some time with the first team. This kid has a bright future. But he actually last week just came out and said that he prefers playing right back. And I love Nico Williams in that spot as the backup. I think Nico Williams is going to be great.
Yeah.
So when I heard that, I was like, okay, maybe Hoiber doesn't want to play center back. But the thing is with Hoiber, if you did promote him, is that he solves a number of problems, again, with flexibility because he can play anywhere along the back line. So he can ultimately be a spell for Alexander-Arnold, be a spell for the center backs, or even for Robinson now in the wing. So maybe they solve it internally. We have been kind of loosely connected to some center backs like Ben White, who's on loan in the Champions League, the championship right now. He's a young kid, pretty good. He could develop under Matip and Gomez and Van Dijk. So maybe that's a route they go. That's going to be an interesting position that they fill, and in my opinion, that's the one I'm really watching.
Yeah, and Klopp, we've seen it before with Stephen Calker. He brought him in for half a season on loan. So Klopp doesn't have a problem with just bringing someone in for half a season or whatever. You know what I mean? So if it's really comes down to it, I think Klopp will figure it out. I would like to see Gomez and Matip just go a season without injuries and see
Please.
how good they could actually be next to Van Dijk. Because Van
Mhm.
Dijk's one of those players where he doesn't get, knock on wood, he doesn't get injured. You know
Please.
what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be really interesting to see what ends up happening there. And
Yeah.
Steven, is there anything with all the players we talked about? Is there anything you want to add?
You know, so for me, the one thing I also wanted to talk about with you is just Curtis Jones, because I think he's going to be on the first team next year. He is a guy that I think is going to take the Lallana spot. I think he's and so I think he's going to play a big role on the team next year. Klopp loves him. He has a huge ability, man. Like this kid, like we've seen him play against Arsenal in that amazing 5-4 game. We saw him play against Chelsea. Like he's going to be a talented player, and he's another guy who could. Hey, he's not going to expect to play every game. He's only going to play in the cup games or in the games are blowing out. But he could really, just get some good minutes in practice with the first team. So that's one person I wanted to bring up. But then the other person that no one really talks about is Marco Grujic, because he's out on loan. And he's just an interesting player for me because he plays in that number 6 and he plays in the defensive center mid role. But he just offers something that no other team really has. He's just such a big body in that role, and he is a good distributor. So I wonder if maybe he could actually finally get a shot. Have you seen much of him over at Hertha Berlin this year?
So not this year. I have watched highlights of him, right? Because I'm interested in Grujic too. And first, I'll just go with what you said with Curtis Jones. When I look at Curtis Jones, I mean, homegrown, right? You look at him as like another Trent player. You look at him as a player who's not going to stop at nothing to get into the team. He's going to put 100% every time he's on the field, and he's just going to grow. I think his potential is incredible. From what I've seen him play on the wing, the left wing a little bit. He has an excellent whip on him. I think over time, because was he 19 or 20? Really young. Over time, he's going to be incredible. And then Grujic, yeah, that 6 role. I think he's 6'3". I know Hertha Berlin wanted to sign him and keep him. And I think he's an excellent in-the-air presence that we don't have. And like you said, his distribution's incredible. He's not on the level Fabinho is, obviously, but he has developed into a player. Because if you watch his highlights, he can dribble, he can pass, he can shoot. He's everything you want. Now, the question for me is I'd be very upset if they end up selling him or putting him back on loan again this season, because I would like to see the games where Fabinho doesn't play or Fabinho's out, Grujic gets a start, right? Because we've seen Henderson this year and last year, he was being put forward in that forward role. I don't want to see Henderson or Wijnaldum in that 6 anymore. You know what I mean? Yeah. I want to start seeing a player who's meant to play there. So Grujic is that exact player. And then even with his height, and we've seen Klopp do this before with Wijnaldum and even Henderson and Fabinho, he could put Grujic in at center back if he needed to. You know what I mean? So
100%.
I think those are 2 really good players that you bring up that it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And then, like you said, Nico Williams, very impressed. All of our young right backs and left backs, they're really good.
Yeah. That kid Larouche too, who plays left back.
That's who I was thinking of, Larouche. Yeah. He's my favorite.
Yeah, he's been great, man. Like I saw, when they came to Boston, I saw him play at Fenway, and I had never even really heard of Larouche too much until I watched him that game, and he just has a spark to him, man. And both of those guys, both those outside backs, play the way that Liverpool likes to play with their outside backs and push them forward. Yeah, they both have tremendous ability to go forward. So again, he's another guy. I think maybe he's the fringe guy. Sometimes he's with the first team, sometimes he's not. But he could be I'm telling you, man, like we have a better academy than people think we do.
No, I completely agree with you. And it's only going to get better under Klopp with the new Kirby training facilities and everything. I think that's brilliant from like a psychological standpoint. I think having the kids being able to see the progression, I think that's perfect for development. Yeah, that's really good. And you mentioned that Sevilla game in Fenway. Larouche, I think Larouche was hurt, right? He got
hurt in that game. Yeah, he did. And it was really disappointing because we were watching him. He was like, this kid is awesome. And then he went down with that. I think it was a pretty bad tackle on him too. But it was not.
Sevilla played dirty that game, man. I was watching that game.
Yeah, it was definitely disappointing. But, one other thing I kind of want to talk to you about, and you did it on your last episode with kind of like keep, loan, and sell. You know, the thing that I always struggle with is when we talk about these young guys, Nico Williams, Hoiberg, even Harvey Elliott, we didn't even bring him up yet. But, how do you draw the line in saying, like, it's valuable to keep him inside, like with the U23s or riding the bench with the first team compared to, okay, like this guy needs to go get minutes, let's loan him out somewhere. Like even Brewster's out on loan right now. So that's like my biggest thing is like, because like there's so many guys, I'm like, oh, like, make the first team. But I'm like, well, they also kind of need minutes. So, what are your thoughts on that? Like, what do you kind of like think about the line of when should I loan a player and when should I keep them inside?
That's the big question. You know what I mean? And I think there has to be a healthy balance because you can learn by sitting on the bench and observing, right?
Right.
But playing, you need those experiences where you do well to build your confidence, but you also need times where you mess up so you can learn from them.
Right.
I think going on loan I think more sports should adopt it personally, or you see the NBA do it a little bit with the G League, but I think more sports should adopt it because if you look at players like especially Harry Wilson, especially Rhian Brewster, all these players who have talent, undeniable talent, you can't sit them on the bench. They need to hone that talent so that they can progress into the first team. That's another player, man. If Harry Wilson doesn't get some minutes in the first team in this next season, I don't know what he has to do because he has shined at Bournemouth.
Yeah, see, he has. He's played great. He's played great for them. But it's like the one thing when I look at Harry Wilson is just like, okay, who's he going to replace in our team right now in the midfield spot? Like, and even I think I'd even still would rather have Curtis Jones over him, just because I think, like when I look at Harry Wilson, I think more of like a David Beckham style. Like he's not going to beat you like with his dribble, but he can distribute incredibly, and he has probably one of the best free kicks in the league.
Oh yeah,
but. So is he good enough, like, technically to play with the Liverpool first team every day? And I'm starting to lean towards no. I love the player. I think he's really, really good. But I just don't think technically he's good enough to play in our midfield or even out on the wing. So I just don't know, unless he's going to be a guy who is like our super sub and comes off the bench when we need a goal and he's going to hit a tremendous set piece. I just don't know, unfortunately, if he does have a future at Liverpool.
And it's interesting to bring that up because he is getting to that age where he needs to either be good enough or we need to sell him. I think he's 22 or 23.
That's exactly it. Yeah. Same thing with Grealish. They're both at that age now where it's like you got to make the decision. Are they good enough or are they not? Because you have to do what's best for their career.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's interesting points, man. And I think Curtis Jones, because I forgot about him a little bit, to be honest with you. But I think given his age, and given what we've seen in the preseason games and exactly that Arsenal game, him and Harvey Elliott are the players that Klopp wants to bring through the system because they're both so talented for their age. Like they have more talent than I think Harry Wilson does. I'm trying to think of some other wingers. But Ben Woodburn, he's more of a striker, center attack.
I completely forgot about Ben Woodburn.
Yeah, I know.
Holy crap.
He went on loan to Oxford. After, I think he was on loan at Sheffield last season. I could be wrong.
Yeah, he had a really bad loan somewhere. I think it was at Sheffield, actually. He had a really, really bad loan where he wasn't even playing that much and really just took his career completely U-turned it. I mean, there was a time when he scored his first goal for Liverpool. Then he like shortly after that got his first goal for Scotland, and he was on the rise. And I remember everyone was talking about him.
He was linked with Barcelona. I kid you not, man. This kid was linked with Barcelona at one time.
And we haven't even heard a whisper about him in the last 2 years. And it's really, I don't know what happened. It's definitely disappointing to see that. But yeah, again, I mean, I think Curtis Jones is way better than him. But one guy, actually, one of the younger guys, but I can't even say he's that young anymore. And I was completely shocked with how he played this year. Was our midfielder Chiravelli?
Yeah,
I think his name is. I definitely pronounced that wrong, but. He was a guy that he was always kind of laughed at, a little bit.
He's another one of those players, man, where we've had him for a long time. He's like 22, 23. He may even be 24, but he's just average. You know what I mean? Like he was kind of like Kevin Stewart was, when we had him. And we had the whole issue with the FA Cup where he wasn't legally allowed to play or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, he did surprisingly well, in those 2 games.
Yeah, and then especially because he got some time with the first team with the starters, and in those games he played really well,
Yeah.
and everyone was just like, wait a minute, like should we keep him? Like should he be the guy that replaces Lalana? And so there's so many different storylines going into if we can finish the rest of the season or going into the preseason for next year that a lot of different things can happen, and I bet something's going to happen that no one's even talked about yet.
That is like the perfect way to end it because you're absolutely right. You brought it up with Fabinho. We didn't even know he was signed until I pulled it up on Instagram and he's just sitting there with the jersey. Like, I'm
Yeah,
like, who is this kid? And
exactly.
it's probably going to happen again. The only thing is, can they keep it under wraps with everyone so desperate to get some news because there's
Hmm.
no games going on? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
And it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. But Steven, I really appreciate you coming on the show. I think this was an excellent show.
yep.
Appreciate your input on everything. And again, if you want to check out Steven's stuff, he does 2 podcasts. The main podcast is Yanks of the Cop. I know it's pretty much everywhere, right? Apple
Yep.
Podcasts, Spotify,
Apple,
everywhere.
Spotify, it's on everything. Yeah, and then Footy Weekly as well. My Twitter handle is Merseyside, so feel free to follow me, say what's up. But Kyle, thank you, man. This was so much fun, and I'm looking forward to having you on our podcast next week, man.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thanks.